So welcome to it. My name is yours truly, Linda Shabangu, and yes, we are at Mining Indaba. I have a fabulous, gorgeous lady with me here, and she's going to tell us who she is, where she comes from, and how she's finding Mining Indaba on the second day. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Lindy. I'm Dr. Tutula Balfour. I'm the head of health at Minerals Council South Africa. And the Mining Indaba, yesterday it was the first day and it went very well. We had very insightful inputs from a lot of the speakers, and I'm looking forward to an even better day today.
So, how has the mining Indaba over the last, 30 years? How has it changed for you?
Um, I started attending later, so maybe about 12 years ago, and it's bigger. There's far more, delegates here. I think they are also trying to focus more on pertinent issues. So, for instance, you've got critical minerals, a big thing all over the world, and there is far more participation by African countries. I would say maybe the most positive thing I have seen over time is the involvement of the African governments. So you have presidents, ministers of mining coming. On the Saturday, there's actually, on the Sunday, there is a ministerial, meeting, African ministerial meeting, where they share experiences on what's happening in their countries. And even here at the Indaba, African countries are moving big time, you know. The DRC is well resourced. It's becoming more accessible. There are issues around, security. They are addressing those. And there's a lot of minerals there which are required by the rest of the world. Zambia is on a resurgence. If we remember, Zambia did very well 40 years ago due to its, copper. And they have now turned around again. In the last 10 years, they are really moving up. They are even collaborating now they told us they are collaborating between themselves and the DRC in terms of, extracting the minerals. And all over Africa, I mean, Africa is so abundant with minerals. And I think the one message that came through yesterday from one of the speakers was, as Africans, we should be banding together and, determining how the mining should happen in our countries, so that we are not dictated upon by, other countries beyond the continent, and we end up feeling exploited. So I think there is a bigger sense that Africa needs to pull together, so that there is a coherent strategy, and we are not acting as individual countries.
Dr. Balfour, you spoke about your department specifically being in the health space. Let's talk about the health sector from an ESG point of view. How has that evolved in the past couple of years?
ESG is becoming a bigger issue, for the companies, and health falls under the S social.
Yeah.
There's high expectations, as you are aware. A lot of companies do have, for instance, health facilities. And if you are in a place where the community has nothing, then there is an expectation that maybe the company should be assisting. So you are now finding that a lot of companies are doing what they call beyond the gate, health beyond the mine gate. And generally, mining beyond the mine gate, where you are saying, what are we doing for the surrounding communities? So that, again, sometimes it's about, rather than you work as an individual company on diseases actually which are transmitted within, around the community. There's no point, for instance, you managing TB alone, because your employees are living in the community. And if you are having a great program on the facilities, but there's nothing outside, then your employees are going to be, infected repeatedly. And so you are forced, it makes sense that you should be collaborating and working with government
And not
in
working in
terms of
silos.
not silos. And so a lot of companies are doing that, so that if there's TB control, then it is with government and it's for the whole community, which means then it's more sustainable. So as I said, a lot of companies are forever saying, how do we assist beyond the mine gates?
So, do you find that from that point of view that there is a shift because we still have hostels and we still have hostel dwellers and it's still packed? So, from a disease point of view, is that being controlled or what's happening from that perspective?
There's actually far fewer hostels now. Government regulated around hostels almost 25 years ago. And so most hostels have been converted into single occupancy rooms or family rooms. The ideal is family because, as much as possible, the employees should be staying with the family. Because if, for instance, you are not staying with your family, then your chances of risky behavior, become higher. So there aren't many hostels actually right now. And so, in fact, part of how we have reduced TB can also be attributed to the fact that there was de-densification, of those hostels. And so you didn't have a group of people, breathing down each other and therefore infecting each other. So we don't have a lot of, you know, packed hostels now. We are beyond that.
And my favorite topic is talking about women in mining. Has that grown? Do you see more women coming into the sector, into the industry? And how has that changed the perception of the mining industry?
There are more women. The Mining Charter 2010, it stipulated 10% of the population employees should be women. And depending on the company, we are now sitting on 15%. We don't think, we make up 52% of the population. So we must always remember that. And so 15%, yes, it's progress, but we think we should be doing more. And now, how a company adjusts is it depends on the leadership. If it is compliance driven, then people will want to tick 10%. Oh, I'm done. I've got 10% of women. But if you are really driven by, going beyond compliance, then you will be trying to recruit as many people, women, as possible. And some of the companies have that approach, such that their numbers of women are far higher, the percentage of women is far higher. And we don't even have a problem now of a pipeline, because at some stage maybe you'd say, but women are not, there aren't many geologists women, there aren't many mine engineers. I can tell you most of these schools, vets, I know vets, maybe let me talk about that. Minimum 50% of those classes, it's women. So the pipeline is there. There's a lot of programs. Most companies have programs on how to support women to go up. And I think maybe the only limiting factor tends to be, the growth of the economy. Because if our economy does not grow, as it has not, we've been less than 1% for a long time, then you find that it's difficult to absorb. Just like we're having doctors who are not employed, you find that then it's difficult to absorb women because there are fewer new places. So the challenge, I think, for the country is we have to grow this economy, because if we grow the economy, then there's women waiting to be absorbed, and companies really try to, there's affirmative action, if I can put it like that, for women. So they are at a big advantage when it comes to recruitment and support in moving up in the companies.
As we close this interview, your final parting shot, what would you say to people listening to you right now?
Well, I would say there is, having listened, sat through a lot of the sessions at this Mining Indaba, there's really a bright future ahead. And the only thing that South Africa needs to do is to overcome the structural barriers we have right now, which is electricity, rail. If we can just overcome that and we then collaborate with the rest of the countries, really Africa is on the way up. There's a lot of potential in mining, like it did for South Africa. Let's never forget, South Africa advanced simply because of mining, and that opportunity has now presented itself for the rest of the African continent, which has got the resources. So countries really need to grab this opportunity and develop, based on mining. But as we do that, we need to always remember, let's do it such that there is no harm to people and no harm to the environment. Thanks.
And that's how we wrap up our conversation with Dr. Tutula Balfour.